Maybe you could be president. Do you ever think about anything like that?
No.
Really, never?
No.
Why?
I wouldn't make a good president.
You don't think you'd be good?
I wouldn't really pass any of the things that you have to pass, but I guess Trump did it.
Yeah, no.
No.
You would be a Boy Scout by comparison.
Nah, I like doing what I'm doing.
You like doing, yeah. There's no fun in that, is there?
I don't know if I could be responsible for the whole country.
You know what? I think that at this point, almost anybody would be doing a better job.
What about you?
Yeah, and I wouldn't do a better job, but I think I would, you know what, I would, if you agreed to run for president, I would be happy to be your running mate. Let's put it that way, all right?
Yeah, of course, P. Diddy loved doing what he's doing, as of course the corporate media really wants a predator to be the president of the United States. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Luke Rudowski, here of thebestpoliticalshow.com, and we are going to be live for the next 2 hours discussing all the crazy news developing and happening right now. As of course, we got a new announcement from the Russian FSB that is blaming the United States for a major attack on Moscow. There is a major bridge collapse in Baltimore, Maryland. As of course, there's always migrant news. There's news about Dana White. There's news about P. Diddy. RFK Jr. has a new vice president. We're going to be discussing that plus a lot more, all here on this independent media broadcast. If you would like to do it, we would greatly appreciate it if you would share this broadcast with your friends and family members, as we are going to be live for the next 2 hours. We appreciate it very much, as of course the YouTube algorithm isn't that favorable to us, but when you guys get the video out there to your friends and family members, it does make a big difference, and we can't thank you guys enough for that. As of course, you also get the privilege to participate in the conversation, and you could do that very simply and easily by signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com. We have a lot of cool video reports available to you guys, but also a part of your membership, you get access to a Telegram channel that I watch during the show, and we will be going to callers in about an hour and a half from now. You could be that caller. There's no script. There's no us telling you what you can and cannot say. You get ultimate free speech, and you get the ability to be a part of this broadcast, all just by simply signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com. And then, of course, letting me know in the chat room that you want to call in. Also, a part of your membership, you get a nature hike, which we're going to be doing in 3 weeks, which Clint has volunteered graciously to lead us on, as he will be consuming a lot of the plants that are edible and non-edible as a demonstration of what to do in the wild. I just literally made that up out of nowhere, just for transparency's sake here.
It was very descriptive, very good ad lib.
I know. We do our best here, and of course we will be reading your super chats, your Rumble rants, but you could also participate in the conversation by going to mysuperchat.com, and your super chat actually gets to show up on screen. When it does, we will be doing our best to read all of them. We had a lot of them yesterday, as of course we had a really controversial guest yesterday that was saying some really crazy stuff. It was a very interesting conversation. You guys were a part of that conversation directly through your super chats, Rumble rants, and mysuperchats.com, which we read throughout the conversation. It's awesome to have you guys a part of the conversation, and it's awesome for you guys to support this broadcast, since of course no major large corporation does. It's pretty much user funded through your support, and we can't thank you guys enough for that. Joining us for today's conversation is Ms. Hells. Hells, for the people who don't know you, who are you and how would you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Luke. I'm Hells. I am the Senior Director of Harp Rescue. I work alongside Brooke Bryant. I also do content creating and writing for Ben Swan at Sovereign Media.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Ben Swan has been doing a lot of work throughout the last few years. I've known him. I've been talking to him, interviewing him for about 15 plus years now. I think he's been there ever since I remember his highlighted blonde locks.
Yeah.
I remember he's been there ever since the corporate media days. He was in the corporate media. He quit the corporate media. He became independent media. He became corporate again. Now he's independent. So he definitely has a very interesting career. Clint is also here. He's a very interesting guy as well, and might be the future vice president of the United States.
Oh, God forbid. Let's not go there.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's the first I'm hearing of this.
I would be a better pick than RFK Jr.'s selection today, but we'll get into that later.
I know, that's such a bad pick. Like, what is wrong with him? Like, hey, I'm the anti-establishment. What? We'll get into that. Probably, we're going to have to save that conversation for Rumble, but sorry, go ahead, Clint. I cut you off.
No worries. At Liberty Lockpod on X, if anybody wants to follow me, got 127,000 of you savages over there. A good way to support my work is to subscribe there, and I'll follow you back. Liberty Lockdowns, the show, had a episode that dropped last night and is approaching 10,000 views on YouTube already, so I really appreciate you guys' viewership, and continue to support our work by never missing an episode and taking out your phone right now and looking up The Best Political Show and Liberty Lockdown and pressing subscribe on both so that you never miss a show. We got Steph.
No. Luckily, Toby Turner is no longer with us.
R.I.P.
Thank
Toby.
goodness. He was a handful. He was a lot to deal with. But there was some kind of furry convention and meetup that he just needed to be at. He was supposed to be here for 2 days. He's been here for like 3 weeks. The guy's a lot. He's a lot to deal with. He's not here. But Stephanie is here. She finally has her own seat and not bothered by any of the bad masculine juju that she had to deal with within the last few days. Right, Steph?
My own seat and my own microphone. Yes.
So Steph's going to be talking an extra tenfold today.
We're excited.
20-fold.
Oh, let's go.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on X at StephWRC or on Instagram at StephWeAreChange.
Awesome. Let's just get right into it. As of course, there's a big story that broke today that significantly was underreported, I think. As of course, the Russian FSB security service came out and directly pointed the finger at Western intelligence services that they allege played a role in the Moscow attack. This, as the FSB also came out and said that the United Kingdom, as well as Ukraine, were somehow in contact with the perpetrators of this larger mass casualty event in the Moscow theater. As of course, this announcement has some major ramifications to it, highlighting that the larger proxy war between the United States and Russia is absolutely escalating to very dangerous proportions, and very soon and at any time could, of course, expand in the larger theater of war that is now happening in Ukraine and potentially could be happening all over the world. As, of course, this is not a good situation to be in. And whether you believe the FSB, again, they don't have the best track record of being honest, just like our intelligence agencies. Intelligence agencies, they're not really that transparent. They're not really known for being accountable. What's the actual evidence here? I haven't seen it myself. Will we be seeing it in the next few days? Well, we also now have to take everything with a grain of salt, since the perpetrators here are being tortured and mutilated for everyone to see on Telegram and other video service platforms like Twitter. Unpleasant images, not nice images. In yesterday's video, we had a guest here that was defending the torture. We were saying it was bad.
We got him to back off a little bit.
A little bit, because I only brought up what if the situation was with Palestinians. And he was like, well, hold on, wait a minute there. No, very fascinating conversation yesterday if you haven't seen that one. But
even though he blasphemed against Ron Paul, which I will never forgive. But otherwise, good
That's
kid.
unforgivable.
I know.
That's an unforgivable offense.
I know the only guy who's like married, doesn't do drugs, and like the most traditional actual on all the Republicans. There's some freaky people. They're in bathroom stalls throughout the years, getting caught doing some really weird stuff.
Yeah.
Bush is literally putting in undercover freaking adult male stars into the White House during his administration. Ron Paul is one of the few people who, of course, stands by his values. Again, we're going off tangents here, but Ron Paul also specifically warned us about the larger escalations, especially when it comes to just trying to fight a war with Russia. The Republicans never listened to him. The Democrats never listened to him. But some right-wing figures try to blame him for the problems that we're dealing with now, when,
bizarre.
of course, it absolutely makes no sense. And it's not just our guest yesterday. It's also individuals at the Daily Wire that I was previously in arguments with, as, of course, they blame libertarian philosophy for the decay of society. Meanwhile, these Republicans, when they go to the Bohemian Grove, they do some really weird, wild stuff that, of course, should be directly called out, but never is. Now, back to the topic of discussion here. The situation with Russia, I think it's a lot more serious than we make it out to be. I think it's a lot more dangerous, and especially with Russia becoming a nuclear prepared country, this signals a lot of problems that are going to be coming to a head that there's no resolution to. Is there a resolution? Is there a way to back off from this? I don't think so, especially this year. I don't know what you guys are seeing.
I mean, I think that there is a way to find a resolution here. I think that all of the parties have to realize that the death and destruction is ultimately only going to persist, and that you have to approach each other at the negotiating table in good faith. That is how all wars ultimately come to an end, is that, I mean, unless you wipe out your opponent, which I don't think anybody would like to see. I certainly hope no one wants to see that in Ukraine. It'd be absolutely devastating. But at this point, the advantage is so clearly in the Russian side that for the life of me, I mean, I understand some of the more sinister aspects of why they may not be willing to negotiate in terms of Western diplomacy dictates, but for the life of me, from a humanitarian perspective, I don't know why anybody wouldn't be calling for negotiations at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we've been staunchly anti-war. I mean, I've been staunchly anti-war ever since I could be anti-war, because people don't understand the larger kind of hell on earth that is put onto people during a conflict where lives are just routinely taken, and it's normalized. There's a lot of crossover, especially in the Slavic culture, and to see my fellow people just kind of attack each other and take each other's lives, it kind of makes me wonder, why aren't we asking more questions about this? Why isn't this more of a discussion now, with the FSB saying, hey, we're going to blame you guys for this attack? Highlights something that, again, is dangerous for everyone, not just the people of Ukraine. Hells, I don't know how you feel. I don't know, because you work with Ben Swan, you like Ron Paul as well. But a lot of the kind of foreign policy that America has been committing under the Democrats and Republicans it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It's absolutely preposterous, and it serves, I think, no goal at all.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I know that there can be a resolve. I think we all know that there can be a resolve. I think there are people on all sides that do not want to resolve. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we're usually looking at. And I know that Russia is definitely building a case to prove, MI6 and CIA were involved on Tuesday. They came out and said that they believe MI6 and the CIA are actually restoring their intelligence in key Afghan provinces. So I don't see this getting better soon.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Well, I don't think that there's any disagreement amongst us as to whether or not we see it getting better soon. I just think that it's possible to find peace if people want it. But what I think is interesting about this is that this is basically like having Bill Burns, which is the head of the CIA, saying that Russia was responsible for that bridge attack last night, or the bridge accident last night. That's the gravity of what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's going to be the segue to the next story. So let's just not go there. For now.
I'm not going to that topic. I'm just saying, like, I just want people to put it, like, have a frame of reference to understand how serious the American people ought to be hearing these reports from the FSB. Whether they prove it out, whether the claim is valid, I have no idea at this point, but I think it carries with it grave consequences, particularly if they're sincere, and particularly if it's true. If it turns out that it's true, then God help us, because that would be an escalation that I don't think we come back from. That is a true genie out of the bottle scenario.
I mean, this attack was savage. All attacks are horrible. Loss of life is horrible. This was nasty. Yeah.
140 civilians at this point. I mean, it's heartbreaking, but this is why all I've been saying all along, aside from condolences to the victims and everything else, the families of the victims, but most importantly, I just pray to God that there actually is not Western intelligence that's involved with this. The issue is that even if it's just Ukraine that's responsible, because we've shipped them hundreds of billions of dollars, including training and armaments, how can you disconnect culpability?
We're culprits, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we are Ukraine, right?
It seems like
we went in there, we changed out the regime. Like, we're so deeply embedded in Ukraine. Like, if they find links to Ukraine, we're culprits.
Then it's links to us. I think that's a
100%.
fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Well, with so much of the weapons there sent by through our tax dollars, with so much of our resources sent there and then gone missing, and even CBS News reporting, hey, there's a significant portion of the weapons here that just magically poofed, magically disappeared. We don't know where it went, as of course Ukraine is known for having a lot of corrupted politicians. Ukraine, before this conflict, was always called out as one of the most corrupted places on earth. And then when you have a blank check delivered to them by the United States saying, hey, have all of our money, have all of our weapons, have all the ammunition, have all of our bombs here, have all of the latest and greatest technology when it comes to blowing up airplanes out of the skies. When you just throw that in a place that has all of these tracksuit wearing mafioso bureaucrats, you're going to have a bad situation on your hands. And I think this is why the Russian government, especially when they captured these suspects, they now captured some of their family members. They're now being tortured too, probably. The first questions that they were asking them was, where's the weapons? Where did you put those weapons that you used against innocent civilians? And if there's a link from one of those weapons that was paid for by your tax dollars, you could bet your bottom dollar the Russians were going to be like, it was America. But it could have not been America. It could have been legitimately Ukrainian oligarchs just being like, yeah, we're just going to make some extra money here selling this on the black market. Right. And then that firearm somehow ending up in the hands of these radical Islamists that clearly are a bunch of strange individuals. The stories about these guys kind of don't add up. One of them is known for being like an idiot loser. Another one is known for being like a successful barber. A lot of them have children. And when you look at, radical Islamists, they usually fight to the death. These guys didn't do that. They fled. And they were trying to escape to Ukraine, which again highlights how potentially there could be some culpability here.
Well, and they claim, granted this was an admission under torture, so we can't take it really seriously, but they claim that they did it for around $5,000 once you convert it from rubles into U.S. dollars, and it's just very hard for me to imagine that someone would commit such a heinous act for such a pittance in terms of financial compensation. It's also bizarre that if it is going to be that, why it wouldn't, if it is, being orchestrated by Western intelligence, why they wouldn't be offering more money. That seems as if they certainly could do that if they chose to. So I don't know. There's a lot of aspects, of this that are still totally unknown. But again, I'll just double down and say I pray that it is not American involvement, or at least if it, as you said, we are involved whether we like it or not. I hope that it's not Ukrainian involvement. I almost hope that it is like the reported story that it's ISIS reemergence. That would actually be better for the world if it's not Western intelligence.
But then you could connect Western intelligence to the rise of ISIS, which
true,
again, they're going to be like, hey, look, the United States financed these guys and gave them their start in Iraq and then told them to go after Bashar al-Assad. So
we should probably stop doing that. You think?
Yeah. If only some people would have listened to individuals like Ron Paul and other spheres of independent media that have been warning about this from the very beginning. I remember when Barack Obama was like, we're going to do regime change in Syria. We're going to go bomb them now. And there was a huge anti-war movement here in the United States that I was documenting, that I was covering, that highlighted people who really didn't want that to happen. Eventually, it was the Russians that sent warships and said, no, we're not going to allow any of this larger kind of regime change in the Middle East. We had a lot of that already in the United States, financed by your tax dollars, that didn't achieve anything but create more enemies that now we have to fight. So you see the cycle here kind of evolve, where we're financing both sides of the conflict, we're pissing people off, we're arming them, and then we're also at the same time opening up our borders and saying, well, whatever happens, happens. As of course, the victims of this won't be a lot of the people making these policies, but the victims of this will usually be poor individuals who are just trying to live their freaking lives and then have to deal with new security threats that they never had to deal with before. I
mean, you and I have theorized a lot about what the larger chessboard and why the West is involved so heavily in Ukraine. We've theorized that it's about defending the dollar, perhaps trying to have a staging ground that allows them to kind of encircle China further. Do you have any theories as to why? Because I mean, we have clearly sacrificed ourselves financially to a massive amount, and now if Ukraine loses, it's going to give the Western alliance the black eye, including NATO. Do you see any underlying thesis or reason for why they're doing this? Without getting us kicked off of YouTube?
That's a very hard ask there.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say China. I don't think much that the U.S. is doing these days is pro-U.S. I mean, for us to send all that money over there, for us not to take a real diligent look at BRICS, that's wild to me. I don't think that anything we're doing right now is pro-U.S. at all. I don't think our current administration has any.
You think they're under the control of the CCP?
I hate when people say that, because then it gives us like a picture of like, oh, China's just running our government. I don't think that's what it looks like at all, right? I think that there are a lot of people that have been very open about wanting a new order of things. And I think there's a vast majority of people in our current administration who are helping work towards that. Do I think that they want to nuke the United States? Yeah. Do I think they want to nuke the United States? No. Do I think that they're playing along to move the United States into this new order? And keep in mind that our country as we know it, with our liberties and everything, like that does not fit into the new order, that they're pushing this agenda. So when I wouldn't look at anything they're doing and say, oh, they're trying to protect themselves, from China, or they're trying to do this. I mean, nothing they're doing is protecting the country.
Yeah, and
Nothing.
I think a lot of the same people who call the shots here in the United States also call the shots in China. I think they're kind of internationalists, they're globalists, they're individuals who do have a lot of power and influence, and I think there's a certain element of this larger kind of geopolitical conundrum between China and the United States that is kind of orchestrated, that it's kind of manipulated and puppeteered in a way that we think we're fighting the bad guys, but in reality, there's powerful people controlling strings of both of these governments, just like we saw within the last 3 to 4 years when they kind of worked together, developing and creating a very interesting, advanced biological altered kind of gene sequence on the world that was let loose and then created a pretext to take away more of our money and liberties. Again, I got to be careful with what we say here because we're
Luke,
still
that
on
one
YouTube.
went over my head. Could you specify? Like I could have picked that one up.
I'm sorry, but we will specify in about 30 minutes.
Yes. The real serious stuff that we have to deal with that bug that came out 4 years ago there, again, that was a larger cooperation between the CIA, Echo Health Alliance, and other individuals tied to it with the Chinese government that worked together on this particular project. So I think geopolitically taking a step back and understanding that it's not as simple as U.S. good, China bad. It's far more complicated. There are far more interests here. There are far more strings. There's far more monetary interests in so many different kind of special interest groups that do truly call the shots here that are worth kind of examining and looking at. So
I have it on good authority if we were to ban TikTok that this would alleviate the issue with China, no?
Oh, yes, absolutely. As soon as we just get rid of TikTok, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to go back to normal. And then our central intelligence agencies that have connections to China could also just manipulate our children for their own personal well-being.
That's really, at the end of the day, what I care about most is that it's not the CCP that is algorithmically controlling my child's mind. I want the CIA and the FBI to be doing it.
Yes.
I think that's
Safe zones.
Yeah,
safe people, good people.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
They absolutely have our best interests at heart, and they definitely didn't do things like MK Ultra. They definitely didn't do horrible things like the Tuskegee experiments.
No.
They definitely didn't do horrible things like
Gladio, no. Mockingbird, no.
No, they introduced crack to the poor communities here.
No,
they didn't do any of that stuff.
No.
They're totally straight guys that are straight shooters and honest and accountable. Never lied to us about weapons of mass destruction or chemical weapons attacks of course were engineered to allow the larger transfer of wealth from the American people to the special interest groups that went off and bombed a whole bunch of people. They definitely didn't do all that.
No. They didn't use that event in September of 2001 to pass the Patriot Act and then strip us of all of our privacy protections.
They definitely didn't destroy our civil liberties and started to manipulate social media companies to, of course, run larger psyops on us. They definitely didn't do any of that. We could keep going here for a while, as of course we have a new announcement allegedly from ISIS that, according to some online internet accounts, released this image highlighting what looks like a man behind a computer screen looking at Paris, Madrid, Rome, London with letters that say, "Who is the next?" Yes, that's an image that now is being circulated, allegedly from radical Islamists, detailing possible future attacks that are going to be happening against the Western world, particularly Europe. This as France recently came out and said that there have been a lot of significant threats made against their people in their country with related kind of ISIL attacks.
Can I clarify something real quick? What is the thesis as to what, like, from my understanding, ISIL or ISIS or whatever their latest branding is, was very concerned about the Palestinian people. Why would they be upset with Russia? To the best of my...
ISIS?
Yeah.
That's because the Russians came in and saved Bashar al-Assad when ISIS was fighting them, and Russian troops were engaged in very significant firefights with the Russians.
Yeah, no, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then...
It just seems weird that it's happening now, because that was many years ago. You know,
but the conflict still continues. There's still a lot of sectarian violence and territorial disputes and fights between Sunnis and the Syrian government forces that are still ongoing to this day, which again was clearly financed by the United States as a coup.
These dudes were not even from Syria, though. Like, I guess they could just be ideologically captured through internet propaganda. I don't know. It just I feel like this case needs to be proven out more. Two of the alleged gunmen had recently came from Turkey. You know, Turkey's a NATO country. It's all very strange.
Well, Turkey also deals with a lot of significant radicalization as well. There's also a lot of sectarian violence between them and the Kurds, and a lot of ongoing fighting and territorial disputes between Turkey and Syria. And this is why, during the kind of beginning phases of the larger attempted coup d'etat on the Syrian government, why Turkey was actually helping out ISIL, helping out ISIS, buying their oil from them, and facilitating large transfers of money to those radical Islamists that the Iranians and the Russians were fighting against the interests of Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the United States that were financing the Sunni side of it. So it was a larger kind of clash of civilizations between the Sunnis and the Shiites in the region, which was bankrolled and financed, and a perfect depiction of a proxy war that we were kind of involved in and paying for with our tax dollars, which was, I guess, well worth it for some of the intel agencies now that have to deal with the problem that they created and financed.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is just, it's so complicated. I mean, you and I spend basically all of our lives just studying this stuff. I can understand how you end up having, Dave Smith popularized the saying, like, if you want to know who will be fighting tomorrow, look at who we're funding today. It's like, yeah, this is why, because we funded everybody at some point, and it's like you never know where the next domino is gonna fall, and it just doesn't seem as if there's any like grand rhyme or reason to much of the geopolitical strategy, or at least
I think there is, and I think we're not supposed to understand it, but I think it's order out of chaos. And I think the next kind of a big battleground, even according to other kind of international political analysts, will be the far right that the United States is financing inside of Ukraine. So with that next kind of boogeyman group being financed and supported by the United States, there probably will be a lot of actions and counteractions in Europe, which is a place that I think is being absolutely destroyed from within. If you look at a lot of the top European countries, they're not fun anymore to be in. I've visited a lot of them. I've spent a lot of time in Germany, in France, in England, and those countries are not the same countries that they were just even a few years ago. Yeah. So I do see larger kind of ideological clashes between the left and the right, and extremist forms of ideologies that I think are being kind of pushed. And I think deliberately so. So we, the people, fight each other rather than actually see the true source of our problem. And rather than actually deal with the root cause of our problem, we just point fingers at each other and blame each other for ideological differences.
Well, you were just down at the border. Do you have any insights as to progress being made? Is there? Or is it getting significantly worse?
Well, I don't know if we're going to get into the border in a little bit, but right now we have specifically the topic that you were talking about just a couple minutes ago, and that's specifically the major event that happened in Baltimore, Maryland, where there was a major bridge collapse today, and a lot of online political commentators automatically said, this was a cyber attack, this was World War III, this is the end, this is the start of it all. And my reaction, as you saw, as I was reporting on this as it was kind of developing, was like, let's just wait a minute here. Let's just find out exactly what's going on before jumping to conclusions. But the fact that a lot of people automatically jump to the conclusion that this is going to be some kind of larger cyber attack, some kind of larger attack on America, just shows us what kind of position we are in right now geopolitically. That's very dangerous and very tumultuous, like I like to say.
Yes. Well, and this was the point I made last night too, is that this is really symbolic. Whether or not it is a terrorist attack or cyber warfare, it's very symbolic of fifth generational warfare, where there's such uncertainty amongst the domestic population. There's such lack of confidence in our institutions that we no longer, because like the FBI came out this morning, for those that aren't aware, and they said that we have no evidence this was a terrorist attack. Everybody calm down.
We're investigating, and we're definitely going to tell you the truth because we're very honest people.
we could ping pong back and forth about all the times the FBI's lied too, but we're not going to do that. But this is like fifth generation warfare where you just don't know, and it'll be more attacks that come from places where you don't know what the vector originated from, and I think that's what we saw in Russia just a week ago. We don't know necessarily. There's much debate and dispute, and the Russians are claiming one thing. The Western diplomats are instantly poo-pooing all of it, and I think that this is going to be a similar thing domestically. And the issue is that, say it was a cyber attack. Well, would they tell us? Because it would cause total panic. They probably wouldn't. So they have an incentive to lie to us, and because they haven't been honorable and told us the truth in the past, all of us are put in the position of wondering aloud whether or not it was. And it's just, I think it's very unhealthy for civilization. I think it's going to portend really rough times ahead.
Gotta rewind for a second, guys. We're talking about the bridge collapse.
Yes.
I thought a cargo ship.
It did.
Okay, it did. So it was the cargo. Okay.
No, for sure it was a cargo ship that hit the largest support pier. The question is the ship did basically like a 90-degree turn at the last second to hit it dead on.
Oh.
The power went out on the ship multiple times, so a lot of people are saying it's just a power outage and they lost control. But there was a story from 2017 of pirates that had used software to basically commandeer a ship using it as like a cyber attack. So people are wondering, whether or not this may have been some sort of, attempt to deplete our infrastructure, because that port is very valuable. That would be my next
question. That was going to be my next question. Right. What is that bridge primarily used for?
Yeah. Well, Biden actually came out today and he talked about it. He said, that bridge had been developed primarily to take out toxic goods. It was, I don't know why this bridge was special for it, but it was a very large bridge, and it allowed for toxic goods to be shipped to and fro. So that was one aspect of it. It also, because it went into that water, it closed down a very important naval pathway. So it will.
Sounds innocent.
It will. I mean, maybe, but it does damage our economy, and it's like these are the types of things that will be shots over the bow. It'll be things that we can't necessarily say like, oh, that was China, that was Russia. We just don't know.
Well, it's a major trading port that, of course, will now hinder car sales and Amazon deliveries. So the poor Western Americans won't get next day delivery in some places in the United States. As of course, there's different kind of speculation here. There's videos of the cargo ship having all of its kind of lights just turned off right before the incident happened. I'm actually asking our audience on YouTube right now, who do you think is responsible for this bridge collapse? Do you think it was an accident, or do you think it was some kind of cyber attack or cyber war? But again, this is the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and a huge cargo ship just collided into it and then totally took it down. There were a lot of innocent people that were affected by this. Cars plunged into the water, and there's rescue efforts that are still happening right now as we are making this video. As the mayor of Washington, D.C. had a very strange response to all of this. She went to social media to say, oh no, Yes, this is the mayor of Washington, D.C., who literally responded to this official matter on her official social media account saying, "Oh no."
This is Muriel Bowser said that?
This is...
or is she the old...
Yes.
That is
Miss
her?
Bowser.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. And the email's like, yeah, that's a very professional response here. Saying, "Oh no."
I mean, honestly, it has as much meaning to me as thoughts and prayers when crisis like this happens. But it's man, what a weird time.
Do we know anything about the cargo ship?
It was just enormous.
We know that it was. I think there was 16 Indians that were working there on board. I know individuals like Owen Benjamin will have a field day now because of this particular fact that I bet he's probably talking about extensively right now.
He's live streaming right now. I have no doubt.
He's probably going there to Baltimore right now. Emergency broadcast. We got it here before anyone else. Now, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, actually made an announcement about this particular incident. Here it is from the president of the United States.
It's my intention that the federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, and I expect the Congress to support my effort. This is going to take some time. The people of Baltimore can count on us, though, to stick with them at every step of the way until the port is reopened and the bridge is rebuilt. You know, we're not leaving until this job gets done. Not leaving until then. So I just want to say God bless everybody who got everyone harmed this morning and their families. And may God bless the first responders, many of whom risking their lives. And the reason I'm not going to take a lot of questions, there's remaining issues that are open that we got to determine what's going to happen in terms of the rescue mission and the like. But
Do you plan to go to Baltimore, sir? And if so, how quickly?
I do, and as quickly as I can. That's what
You said the federal government's also going to pay for the repairs. I'm just curious. This was a ship that appears to be at fault. Is there any reason to believe that the company behind the ship should be held responsible? And then also, you
that
mentioned
could be, but we're not going to wait for that to happen. We're going to pay for it to get the bridge rebuilt and opened.
Yes, someone please give this guy a nap, as now there's larger questions to why is the federal government paying for this? Why are my tax dollars paying for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge? Wasn't there an insurance company here? Wasn't the cargo ship linked to a Singaporean kind of trading vessel here? Well, what's really going on here? Why are we footing the bill?
All of these ships are bonded. Like, you have to get bonds to do this stuff. So I don't understand at all. I mean, I can understand why they may want to front the money so that they can ultimately expedite the reconstruction, but like, make that clear. And I think that's what pisses me off so much about the Democrats is like, they've just totally given up on even pretending to care about the astronomical budget deficits and national debt that we're dealing with. And it's crazy. I mean, yes, obviously the shipping company needs to be responsible for the cost of reconstruction. That's how that's how liability works.
I mean, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. I just think he should have said it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he's just
like, we're not going to wait till this situation is settled.
Right.
Those things do take a lot of time, and you're
Yeah.
talking about international issues. Like that can take
Right.
some time. But
and we're talking about a massive amount of money. I mean, to rebuild that bridge is going to be billions and billions of dollars.
And a lot of time, especially with all the latest DEI efforts that probably will prolong the building of that bridge if it stays up. As
Well,
of course, there's astronomical costs even when it came to putting up safety nets at the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge that was hundreds of millions of dollars that, of course, cost more than the actual construction and building of that bridge, showing you the dire situation that we're facing in the United States, where infrastructure is crumbling and we can't even put it back together. We can't even put up nets around the Golden Gate Bridge without freaking breaking the piggy bank and spending hundreds, which is absolutely incredulous to say the least.
I mean, it was just ridiculous that was my original before I even saw the video of the 90-degree turn where it looked like, okay, that looked intentional. Before I saw that, my initial reaction was like, wow, just one ship hitting one pier on on this very lengthy bridge is enough to just make the entire thing implode. And what it struck me as is like, this is a nation in decline broadly. And that breaks my heart. You know, I'm born and raised here. I didn't ever want to see myself having to leave, but we're sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel, while simultaneously you look at our domestic infrastructure, and keeping in mind, I would rather it all be privatized, setting my libertarian bona fides aside, but just like this is degradation of our cities, of our communities, of our states, of our nation broadly.
I think this is like the perfect segue to talk about our sponsor today. And
Let's
that
do
is
it.
American Hartford Gold. Shouts out to these guys, as of course, companies that put their money where their mouth is should be supported. American Hartford Gold is one of them, and we definitely do appreciate them working with us and supporting this independent media broadcast. As of course, ever since I've been alive, the U.S. dollar has always been the primary currency, but that is definitely in question now, as of course China, the BRICS are set to challenge the dollar, and possibly much sooner than you think in a significant way. The world's biggest economies are ditching the dollar for alternative currencies, collapsing the U.S. currency and causing unprecedented inflation and crashing markets. If that wasn't scary enough, it paves the way for the government to take total control over all of your money with a new digital dollar. Don't let your savings become a casualty of failing banks or currency wars. Steph?
Yes, everybody, protect your savings and retirement with physical gold and silver from American Hartford Gold. With top-notch products, stellar customer service, and a buyback commitment, they've earned a 5-star rating and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. Call now and mention our ad, and you can receive $5,000 of free silver on your first order. That's pretty awesome. Visit getintogoldnow.com, or you can call 866-311-5056, or just text CHANGE to 65532.
Yeah, I like gold. I've been talking about gold for a very, very long time now. And,
I like gold.
And Indian people also really like gold as well, right, Clint?
Sorry,
No,
I was doing.
But the Indians literally store a lot of their kind of family fortune value in gold jewelry.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. I'd rather have that.
I want to wear my wealth.
Well, you don't want to flaunt it too much, especially in the United States, where the situation is becoming not that good for everyone with the rise of crime.
Right.
So you don't want to show everyone like, hey, this is my savings and my retirement here.
Honestly,
but,
though, you're better off with a gold chain than you are with a luxury vehicle. Like it is a better store of value for sure.
The depreciation of vehicles is absolutely freaking crazy. But gold is something that I like. I've always been telling people, hey, check out alternative currencies. Just make sure you are looking into alternatives because, again, we're dealing with very crazy financial times that are only going to get a lot crazier from here. As, of course, this story of what just happened specifically in Baltimore highlights that, as Matt Walsh took to social media and said, quote, train derailments, supply chain crises, planes falling apart in the sky, ships crashing into buildings. I don't know the cause of this latest catastrophe, but the overall picture is quite bleak. Now, is this a doomer pill take, or is this a take that actually is detailing the situation in the correct way?
I'm just glad that Pete Buttigieg is in charge of our infrastructure. He's doing a really bang-up job, after he adopted that kid and he had to take paternity leave, really nailing it, just hitting it out of the park, Pete. Mayor Pete, good job, buddy. Look, it's obvious that we're having a lot of really catastrophic issues with our infrastructure, and that includes railways, and now it includes our waterways. If you've followed any of the reports when it comes to our airlines, also not going so hot. So yeah, I can't think of an infrastructure issue that's going super well right now.
Yeah, the head of Boeing, not retired, but resigned from his position. Rightfully so.
No kidding.
As, of course, there's a lot of particular issues, and people are now kind of scrambling and trying to figure out what kind of flights they're going to be flying on, as, of course, they really don't want to be flying on those Boeing 737 MAX airplanes. There's even, I think, a filter that I've seen people share online of how to avoid being booked on that particular airplane, and it's something that, of course, is preventing me from traveling. I don't want to travel anymore. I used to love traveling. I don't want to travel. It's becoming such a chore. It's becoming just so not reliable. It used to be where you get on the plane, you'd actually get there without being nickeled and dime every step of the way, without any significant delays or cancellations. Planes used to have plenty of room for you to actually exist in, and now you have fat bureaucratic Becky literally having her fat rolls all over you as you're just trying to survive.
Don't they get an extra seat though? Like
Southwest,
I feel like they've been accommodated.
Yeah, Southwest, you get a free second seat.
Free second seat.
Yeah, big old lady you. It sucks because I have to travel a lot for work, for speaking engagements and things like that too. And I was trapped in New Jersey for 48 hours on a layover, and my connecting flight to Miami was canceled, and they couldn't get me on another flight for 48 hours. I mean, this is just a level of degradation of our infrastructure broadly. But this, again, and I know people get tired of it, but it's the truth that much of this has to do with inflation. The reason that they've tried to they're constantly trying to cut costs, and it's always a battle because the cost of fuel, the cost of materials, the cost of the planes themselves continues to increase because the dollar continues to decline in purchasing power. On top of that, you have DEI mandates that have been put out at the federal level thanks to Barack Obama, which now applies to any of the contractors that want to do business with the federal government. They also have to implement DEI practices. A lot of this is a top-down dictate. This is not a function of a free market, and I do not think that we would be seeing any of this occurring if not for the federal government, and this is why I'm so not in favor of them.
We're so vulnerable on every front.
Yeah.
Like we're so vulnerable. That's just another point,
Yep.
They're now charging more for carry-on bags than checked bags, which is infuriating because you used to have free carry-on bags. Now they're like $73. It's like $70 just to do a checked bag on United, which is ridiculous.
I think when I was a kid, there was no cost for checked bags or carry-on bags. It was like all included in the ticket. But
before 2001, you didn't have to pay for the TSA and the blue glove treatment. You didn't have to get patted down everywhere you go. You didn't have to get scanned and X-rayed just to want to frickin' travel. You didn't have to be yelled at by all those blue gloved frickin' deep state nannies
those
that,
Walmart
of course,
employees.
love to scream at you for having a belt on or shoes on. Those guys are just not the best.
What drives me crazy too is the policy is different in every airport. So like sometimes you can keep your shoes on. Sometimes you have to keep the laptop or the iPad in the bag. Sometimes you have to remove it. But then if you ask them when you arrive, they look at you like you're such an idiot.
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, I travel everywhere. The policies are different. I have to know what I'm supposed to do. They don't even put up signs. This has been in force for over 20 years, and there's still uncertainty as to what we're supposed to do. This is government at its absolute worst. Well, not at its absolute worst. That would be wars, death, and destruction. But in terms of just degrading my quality of life and my enjoyment factor, like traveling should be a really fun experience, and it is absolutely miserable.
Yeah, it used to be fun. It used to be awesome. Now it's just something that I don't even want to deal with. We have a Rumble rant by Z Warlock 505 saying, quote, "I wish Rumble user O Puck was on the bridge." I don't know who that Rumble user is, but that's some serious kind of aggression there. That we believe in the non-aggression principle. So there's that. We got another super chat from Bro Cody saying, Mayor Bauer quoted as saying, "Yikes, cringe." Yes, that's what people are saying.
Yikes.
In the chat room.
This is a serious politician.
Yes, hey, they're the best and brightest, and definitely not there because of the way that they look. Okay, we got the results of the poll that we asked people on our YouTube channel. Who's responsible for the bridge collapse? Was it an accident? Was it a cyber war? And 57% of our audience believes that this was some kind of larger kind of cyber war attack on the United States. As the image that I have up now is Barack Obama pointing his finger at what just happened in Baltimore, and from the movie scene that he partly produced, where, of course, there was a larger cyber attack on the people of the United States. Other people are saying, hey, this was an accident. There could have been a problem with the steering, with the power. There was 13 knots of crosswinds. There could have been a drunken person there. Again, we don't know. We're going to find out, hopefully, and then get to the bottom of this. But it's fair to say that the United States absolutely is very vulnerable, especially with what is happening on the southern border, as, of course, the federal government is literally fighting for anyone to walk through the American border and literally just do whatever they want. As today, New York City announced that they are now officially giving out those prepaid debit cards to illegal immigrants, a part of a $53 million program, which is going to incentivize more illegal immigrants to come to the United States and then demand their free government money that, of course, isn't free. It's paid for by the tax dollars. How else would you be incentivizing people to come to New York? I don't know. But these are the same people that literally come out and complain, Why are so many people coming here? Why do you think? You're literally giving them money. This is a ridiculous situation that I believe has been weaponized. What do you think of this situation, and how much worse could it get? How much more obvious could it get from here?
I mean, it's the worst. It's so bad. And this whole back and forth at the border right now is just kind of a joke. With SB4 waiting to get passed.
For the people who don't know what SB4 is, what is that?
So that, I mean, there's a lot in there, but basically that would allow Texas to arrest illegals who come across. If that were passed and they arrest them, they detain them for a period of time and they just get taken by ICE anyway and then get released and go through the whole thing. So it doesn't mean much. I know a lot of people are like putting a lot on that. I know Abbott is kind of very proud of that. But in reality, doesn't really mean much. They're either going through Border Patrol and getting what they want, going in, or they go that way, they get detained, and they'll get a court date, but for 2 years out. Good luck with that. Where are we even going to be in 2 years? I think it's wild that we haven't done more, and I think we could have done more.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are saying Texas is doing incredible work. I think Texas could have done way better, way earlier, and they could have approached the situation in a way that isn't soft on these issues that are changing not only the demographics, but the political landscape in this country. There's so much that is going to be affected by this, not just vulnerability because of these larger kind of potential Western, linked attacks against American cities, but as far as congressional representation, as far as the Democrats being in power forever, they are cementing themselves as the political party that could never be challenged ever again. This is going to have huge ramifications that there's no going back from, as of course Joe Biden is announcing that he's even considering expanding the green cards program for illegal migrants who have been in the United States for 10 years. Now, imagine if this happens 10 years from now and the millions of people who have come across the border are now just given green cards or given a pathway to citizenship. And as we know, they overwhelmingly vote for the Democratic political party. What will be the political landscape of this country in just a few years from now? Well, it's going to be one where you can't even dare to question the fellow Democrats that no one could ever unseat ever again.
What is the process for that? If he was going to do that and then hand out green cards, like what is the process for that? Like what do they have to?
I think congressional authorization is necessary, which is why they've always been talking about that.
For this specific program, applicants who, quote, would qualify if a citizen's relative would suffer due to their removal. So that's the legalese language that we're hearing related to this particular case.
And they just kind of apply, and then they're granted. There's not like when you become a U.S. citizen, you have to like take some tests. You have to kind of know a little bit about our country and like our culture, whatever. But that in that sense, like you don't have to do anything.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
There's some documents that you have to kind of fill out, and you have to, I guess when I'm reading here from the Daily Mail article, apply for a judge to, quote, cancel your removal from the United States. And then it will be determined by a judge. But as we know, immigration courts are just filled up with so many people that these hearings are going to go a lot longer than just 2 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. I'm so frustrated with this topic because the libertarian community is so divided on it, and I just feel like I've always been pro-immigration. I've always thought that there's lots of great immigrants that have made this country absolutely a wonderful place to be in. But I just think if you don't have any sort of guidelines, and you're talking about 3, 4, 5 million people potentially that are coming across annually, that is going to change the culture of this nation so rapidly. And we're already, a very rapidly declining cultural framework as it is. And I just feel like this country is going to basically look like Western Europe, in a matter of a few years from now, if we're not already there. It's crazy to me that more people aren't speaking out against this, honestly.
It's sad. It's really sad because, you have to have some sort of like compassion and heart for someone to make some that trek across and family with kids, like being at the border, you're seeing lots of women and lots of children, But we have a right to protect our home, and the freedoms and the privileges that they're coming here for are not going to be here anymore if they continue to come.
I think
that's the whole thing.
I think that's ultimately the real lesson here is like, yes, well, like I want you to have a better life, I do. But like, if we don't have any sort of parameters or guidelines or limitations on immigration at these levels, I'm not talking about historically. Historically, we dealt with it, but at these levels, you're not going to have an America to flee to. And if you don't have an America to flee to, well, then you don't, like, where do you go? And that's where we're at now, where like a lot of people are looking at, Argentina or El Salvador and saying to themselves, like, that looks like there's a far greater opportunity moving forward than there is in America. And I just want people to really like think about what that means. People are saying that El Salvador, which was the murder capital of the world like a decade ago, is now looked at or perceived to be a place of opportunity that supersedes that of the United States of America. That is just.
I know I am, especially after the latest tax breaks that they've just announced that they're going to be implementing in El Salvador.
Yeah, man.
That looks like an awesome place to live in. As of course, Max Kaiser is telling me, you got to come visit, you got to come. And I'm like, I think we kind of have to. We could probably do the show from there. I'm kind of working out a way to set up an interview with the president there, which I think would be awesome. So that's some of the stuff that we have working behind the scenes here. We got one YouTube super chat from David Hims, who says, Maui families still don't have their homes. Biden 2024. Oh, Puck said, translation, foreigners suffering is reason enough to grant them residency.
No.
Wait, is that it actually isn't, and also legally isn't. I don't think people understand what asylum seeking actually is.
Yes.
You cannot say that my streets aren't safe. I don't have money where I am. I can't, move up in the world and seek asylum. And people really confuse that.
I mean, just to clarify, for anybody that agrees with that position, I'm not even sure that comment meant that they agreed with it. Maybe they were just answering the question. But if you agree with that position, what you are saying is that you are willing to welcome billions of human beings into your country. And we are a nation of 350 million people, give or take. And you're talking about billions that you are comfortable having all migrate here. That is crazy talk.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And of course, everybody knows, like, the way that this whole situation is facilitating sex trafficking is so disgusting. I think I was telling you guys before, last year, HARP had a mission out in New Mexico where they found a slave labor camp, shut it down, and it was actually 40 Chinese nationals that they found in that slave labor camp. And what had happened is they were brought over quite easily by the cartel, smuggled in, promised what everyone has promised. So how many more of these are existing? You know what I mean?
Countless.
I mean, it's not just one way or another. I mean, there's so much stuff going on. Also, last year they found tunnels, and the one thing that was so interesting about these tunnels is that the amount of trafficking that was coming in was nothing like the amount of trafficking going out. It's just absolutely, and then you have, our politicians and how they're all linked to everything. I just think that it is being taken advantage of in every aspect. Never let a good crisis go to waste, right? It's never just one thing. I mean, everybody's going to get their hands in on it. They're going to take advantage. They're going to, do their evil however they can. And I think immigration and this immigration crisis, which it is a crisis, is definitely probably the biggest issue. And I think it's implemented in all aspects of what's going on right now in our country.
We have same old man on Rumble saying, quote, if you want to abandon the USA because it is crashing down, don't come back. When people like me stay and pick up the pieces to rebuild it back the way the founders wanted. Tired of the leaving BS. Interesting point of view. I could kind of understand that sentiment, as of course people are saying, well, if you just leave, you kind of let them win. You kind of let them get away with
I don't think people
taking
should
everything
leave.
from you.
Let's not leave.
Look, I understand the sentiment and to each their own, honestly. Like, if you think that you can prevail, then stay and fight. But if you think you can't, then I totally respect that decision too. I've stayed, but I also fled. I fled California. I stayed in Florida.
Move to Florida, guys.
Yeah.
Just move to Florida.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. It depends on the situation and the circumstance, because I fled New York. I really don't like New York, and I really wouldn't be happy living there, especially being taxed so extensively, where now the money is literally being given out to illegal migrants. Again, $53 million now allocated from New York City taxpayers and directly handed to illegal immigrants for nothing. You came across the border illegally? Here's some money. Yeah, that's going to incentivize more people to come there, as of course, legal migrants have to pass through very rigorous testing and questioning. Meanwhile, illegal immigrants, they're literally incentivized and paid to come across the border. That situation is a situation that I just don't want to be a part of. And by living in New York City and having a business there and paying taxes for it, this is an argument that same old man, I would say, is also kind of reasonable and understandable. So again, I do believe we have to stand up for ourselves. I think we have to be responsible for ourselves. I do believe we have to fight the larger information war, but we have to, of course, do this in a smart, intelligent way, in a way that makes sense, where you are not just kind of incentivizing and paying for your kind of enslavement and the destruction of your own personal wealth and the wealth of your family. So again, I think there's smart ways of doing it. Maybe a vacation home in El Salvador. Maybe just a plan B before people get sent on the trains or the gulags.
Yeah, dude.
Maybe just like an alternative there before they start going after thought criminals, as of course that's already what's happening in Europe.
Yeah. It's happening in America. I mean, let's be honest about what happened with the Trump supporters on that fateful day, which I can't reference until we're on Rumble. But look, there is
fateful day that according to some people didn't go far enough, which is pretty crazy. Which is wild.
That was our guest last night.
We of course countered that idea.
Yeah, there is always a point in every nation's history where it is better to flee than to fight. That is just the truth. You have to make that calculus for yourself. So I'm not going to tell you what to do, and I haven't really. Obviously, I've stayed, and I'm still trying to fight. So you got to find that balance, man. You got to figure it out.
Yeah, fight peacefully, non-violently with ideas, which I think is more important than ever, as I think the feds are trying to entrap people to become more kind of violent, more kind of reactionary, and they kind of prey on our emotions in a very deceitful, horrible way. That's just my 2 cents on the matter, as of course now we finally go over to a free speech platform that doesn't represent a digital gulag that is there to rob us of freedom of speech. And that platform is, of course, rumble.com. If you go to rumble.com, go to the front page, scroll down a little bit, and we are on the front page of rumble.com. You could always find us after the show on rumble.com/wearechange. We are very close to 100,000 Rumble subscribers. Help us build that right now, as of course we will be continuing the conversation, talking about all the spicy issues that we couldn't discuss here on this particular platform. Lots of stuff on P. Diddy, lots of stuff on RFK Jr., and you guys will soon be calling in about 30 minutes from now, all just by becoming a member of LukeUnfiltered.com. My producer, if you could just put that link in the chat room so people could sign up and line up to call in just 30 minutes from now. But before transitioning over, Hells, where can people find you and support your work?
Awesome. So definitely encourage everyone to sign up for Sovereign Media. I think like everywhere I'm Hells Official. It's HELS Official. Maybe on Instagram it's Hells Official _. And then, find Harp through me on there, and definitely support our work on Sovereign Media.
At Liberty Lockpod on X, if you want to support my work, subscribe there. I'll follow you back. Liberty Lockdown is the show. New episode yesterday, new episode tomorrow. That's how it works. I also do Tower Gang, which you should never ever watch, but it's on Wednesdays at 9:15 if you want to have your brain broken. Steph on the buttons.
Steph talking way too much over here.
Steph We Are Change on Instagram, Steph WRC on X.
All right, guys, go over there right now, rumble.com, and